Emily Carter stepped onto the firing line carrying a rifle that looked like it belonged in a museum rather than a modern competition. Its wooden stock was aged and weathered, marred by years of use, the finish dulled and cracked. The metal parts bore the patina of countless battles with rust and wear, the bolt handle polished smooth from decades of careful handling. As she settled into position, murmurs rippled through the crowd. A few snickers rose above the rest, fueled by the rifle's apparent obsolescence. Some competitors exchanged incredulous glances, whispering among themselves about how someone could possibly expect to compete using such an archaic weapon. The firing line was a long stretch of gravel and dirt, marked with numbered positions and flanked by rows of eager spectators. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the range. The air was thick with anticipation and the scent of gunpowder, mingled with the dry, earthy aroma of the surrounding hills. Emily's footsteps were soft but deliberate as she approached her assigned spot, the old wooden stock rifle resting comfortably in her hands as if it had been an extension of her arm for a lifetime. The crowd's jeers and laughter swelled as she positioned herself behind the rifle. The contrasts were stark. Other shooters wielded sleek, high-tech composite rifles with matte black finishes, carbon fiber stocks, and advanced scopes outfitted with digital reticles and ballistic calculators. Emily's rifle, by comparison, looked like a relic, a symbol of a bygone era where marksmen relied on intuition, skill, and a deep bond with their weapon rather than cutting-edge gadgets. Yet, Emily remained unfazed by the derision. Her face was calm, her expression unreadable. She took a slow, steady breath and eased the rifle into position, the wooden stock snug against her shoulder. Her fingers adjusted the iron sights with practiced ease, her movements precise and unhurried. The murmurs of dissent faded into a tense silence as everyone turned their attention to her. The official called out the command, and Emily exhaled, slowly squeezing the trigger. The rifle cracked sharply, the sound echoing across the range and cutting through the low hum of voices. Time seemed to stretch as every eye tracked the bullet's flight toward the distant target. Then came the unmistakable thud of the bullet striking paper dead center. The bullseye was pierced cleanly, the shot perfectly placed. A hush fell over the crowd, broken only by the soft rustling of leaves and the distant call of a hawk. The initial laughter and mocking stares dissolved into stunned silence. Whispers of disbelief spread quickly. How could such an ancient-looking rifle produce a shot so flawless? Some spectators blinked, questioning their own eyes, while others exchanged puzzled glances. Emily lowered the rifle and sat back on her heels, her gaze steady. She didn't celebrate or boast. Instead, she simply prepared for the next challenge with quiet confidence, as if the perfect shot was nothing more than a routine part of her day. The crowd, now captivated, watched closely, their skepticism replaced by a grudging respect tinged with curiosity. Among the onlookers, a few seasoned competitors and observers exchanged knowing looks. They recognized that Emily's shot, far from being a lucky strike, hinted at a deeper mastery, a skill honed through years of dedication and perhaps a story buried beneath the faded grain of that old wooden stock. As she stood to step aside and allow the next shooter to take their turn, Emily's presence lingered in the air, a silent challenge to the modern era's obsession with technology. The old rifle, once dismissed as obsolete, had spoken for itself with unyielding clarity. Precision and experience could still rival, and perhaps surpass, the most sophisticated equipment. The firing line buzzed with renewed energy, the competition now palpably different. Emily Carter, with her weathered wooden stock rifle, had shifted the mood, turning ridicule into intrigue and doubt into anticipation. Whatever lay ahead in the contest, one thing was certain: the crowd was not going to overlook her again. The rugged expanse of the Blackstone shooting ground stretched across the Montana foothills like a natural amphitheater carved for precision and endurance. Rocky outcrops jutted from the earth, interspersed with clusters of hardy pines swaying gently in the cool breeze. The sun climbed higher, casting a stark light that glinted off metal rifle barrels and the glistening lenses of high-end scopes. 50 of the nation's most elite marksmen had converged here, each carrying their own stories, their own weapons, and their own philosophies about what it meant to be the best. The annual Precision Shooting Championship was more than just a contest of skill. It was a battleground for tradition and innovation, where the new school clashed with the old. The air was charged with an unspoken tension, A silent war between those who trusted in cutting-edge technology and those who believed in the enduring power of time-tested craftsmanship and sheer marksmanship. Competitors ranged from grizzled veterans who had spent decades honing their craft in military and law enforcement units, to young prodigies who seemed to live and breathe the latest advancements in ballistics and optics. Their rifles told a story of this divide. There were sleek, modular sniper systems with carbon fiber stocks and digital wind meters, and there were rifles like Emily Carter's, aged, handcrafted, and imbued with a heritage that no sensor could replicate. The grounds themselves were a testament to the challenge ahead. Targets were set at varying distances, some nestled in the shadows of towering pines, others perched atop distant ridges. The terrain was unforgiving, with gusting winds that swept unpredictably across the valley floor and shifting light that played tricks on even the most experienced eyes. Every competitor knew that success here would require more than just technical knowledge. It demanded adaptability, patience, and an intimate understanding of the environment. Among the crowd milling near the registration tents, conversations buzzed with anticipation and rivalry. Groups formed along the lines of equipment preference. Those who swore by the latest digital enhancements debated heatedly with purists who argued that no machine could substitute for instinct and steady hands. Some mocked the older shooters, dismissing their gear as relics unfit for modern competition. Others defended the timelessness of traditional marksmanship, insisting that the soul of shooting lay in the human connection to the rifle. Emily Carter arrived quietly amid this charged atmosphere, her presence understated compared to the polished confidence of many others. She pulled her weathered wooden stock rifle from a worn leather case, placing it carefully on the table for inspection before signing in. Whispers rippled through the crowd as eyes darted toward her weapon, the contrast impossible to ignore. Some competitors shot her skeptical looks, some outright smirks, while others simply shrugged, unconvinced that such an antiquated piece could pose any real threat. The event organizers moved with practiced efficiency, checking equipment, verifying credentials, and briefing the shooters on the day's schedule and safety protocols. The championship's reputation was built on fairness and rigor, demanding that every participant meet strict standards regardless of their weapon's pedigree. The rules were clear. Shots would be taken at progressively longer distances, testing not only precision but endurance, mental focus, and the ability to read the environment. A sense of expectancy settled over the grounds as the opening ceremony began. Captain Mark Reynolds, a decorated former sniper and the event's official coordinator, stepped forward to address the assembled marksmen. His voice carried authority and respect for the craft, but also a hint of amusement as he acknowledged the dichotomy present among the competitors. Today we bring together 50 shooters from all walks of life, veterans, specialists, and rising stars. Some of you rely on the latest technology, others on tradition. But make no mistake, success will come to those who master the fundamentals. May the best shooter win. As the ceremony ended, the participants began to prepare their stations. Tools were laid out with precision, rifles cleaned and calibrated, scopes adjusted with meticulous care. The air was thick with the scent of gun oil and the low hum of whispered strategies. For many, the event was more than a competition. It was a proving ground, a place to stake a claim in the evolving landscape of precision shooting. Emily, meanwhile, found a quiet spot away from the clustered groups, her movements deliberate and unhurried. She checked her rifle's sights one last time, her fingers tracing the worn wood as if drawing strength from its history. Around her, the buzz of conversation continued, but she remained focused, unaffected by the swirling currents of opinion and doubt. Veteran shooters observed her with varying degrees of curiosity and skepticism. Some dismissed her as an anomaly, a relic struggling to keep pace with the new era. Others watched more closely, intrigued by the calm confidence she exuded despite the apparent disadvantage of her equipment. Whispers circulated about the story behind her rifle. A handcrafted stock rumored to be the work of a legendary gunsmith, a piece linked to a lineage of marksmen whose skill transcended generations. The sun climbed steadily, and the range grew warmer, shadows shortening as the time for the first shots approached. The crowd of spectators, comprising journalists, enthusiasts, and fellow competitors, gathered along the sidelines, eager to witness the unfolding drama. Phones were readied, cameras adjusted, and bets quietly placed on who would emerge as the favorite. As the initial call to the firing line echoed across the range, The atmosphere shifted from casual banter to intense concentration. Each competitor stepped forward, checking their positions and steadying their breathing. Among them, Emily's silhouette was a quiet testament to resilience and tradition, a reminder that in the world of precision shooting, the story behind the shot was often as compelling as the shot itself. The stage was set at Blackstone Shooting Grounds, not just for a contest of aim, but for a battle of philosophies, where the past and future of marksmanship would collide under the Montana sky. And at that moment, with 50 elite shooters poised and ready, the championship was about to begin in earnest. Emily Carter's arrival at the Blackstone Shooting Grounds was understated, almost inconspicuous amid the bustle of participants and spectators. She pulled up in a modest, dust-coated pickup truck that looked like it had weathered more miles than many of the polished SUVs and luxury vehicles clustered nearby. The truck's faded paint and worn tires mirrored the quiet simplicity that seemed to follow her. No flashy gear, no entourage, just a solitary figure and a rifle that had clearly seen better days. As she stepped out, the early morning chill clung to the air, but Emily seemed unaffected. Her movements were deliberate and calm, an unspoken assurance in every step. She carried only 2 items, her weathered wooden stock rifle slung over her shoulder and a small worn leather case that she clutched in one hand. The crowd took notice, their eyes drawn to the stark contrast between her and the high-tech competitors unloading sleek cases stuffed with the latest equipment. Whispers spread quickly. "Is that the old Carter girl? Still dragging that relic around?" One voice muttered near the registration line. Another scoffed. "That rifle looks like it belongs in a museum, not a competition." The skepticism was palpable, a mixture of curiosity and condescension that seemed to hang over Emily like a shadow. Many competitors exchanged dismissive glances, some openly shaking their heads as if to say she didn't belong here. At the registration tent, Emily moved through the formalities with quiet efficiency. She signed her name on the list, Emily Carter, number 47, and handed over her competitor's license without a word. Behind the counter, the officials glanced at her equipment, eyebrows raised but expressions neutral. They had seen all kinds of shooters before, and while her gear was unusual, the rules didn't forbid tradition over technology. Back among the crowd, the murmurs grew louder. Some speculated about the origin of her rifle, its aged wood, and the faint engraving near the buttstock that caught the sunlight just right. "That's a handcrafted design," one competitor whispered to another. "Probably made by some legendary gunsmith. But still, against today's tech? It's a gamble." Emily heard none of it. She found a quiet corner near the range where she could prepare without distraction. Opening her leather case, she carefully unpacked a set of cleaning tools, a small notebook, and a few rounds of ammunition, all neatly arranged and meticulously maintained despite their age. Her hands moved with practiced precision, as if each motion had been rehearsed countless times before. Around her, the more modern competitors busied themselves with their own preparations, calibrating digital scopes, programming ballistic calculators, and running diagnostics on electronic wind gauges. The contrast between their mechanical precision and Emily's tactile ritual was stark. She didn't rely on gadgets or software. Her preparation was intimate and tactile, a dialogue between shooter and rifle. A few curious onlookers drifted closer, drawn by the aura of quiet confidence she exuded. Veteran shooters exchanged glances, some intrigued despite themselves. "She's not just some nostalgic amateur," one muttered. "There's more to her than meets the eye." Still, none dared approach directly, respecting the distance she maintained. As the start time neared, Emily slung her rifle back over her shoulder and rose, her posture relaxed but ready. She moved toward the firing line, her footsteps steady and unhurried. The crowd parted slightly, some stepping back to make way, others watching intently. The skepticism lingered, but beneath it was a growing sense of anticipation, a question hanging in the air. Could the woman with the wooden stock rifle defy expectations? Whispers followed her as she took her place among the ranks of shooters. "No chance," one competitor muttered under his breath. "She's outmatched before she even fires." Another voice, quieter this time, admitted, "But that shot earlier. Maybe she's got skill." Emily ignored the chatter. She set up her position with deliberate care, aligning herself with the target at 600 meters. The worn wood of her rifle fit perfectly against her cheek, familiar and reassuring. She adjusted the iron sights, relying on years of instinct rather than electronic aids. Her breathing slowed, each inhale and exhale measured and rhythmic. As she settled into position, the officials moved down the line, checking gear and ensuring readiness. The competition was about to begin, and the atmosphere was thick with tension. Competitors exchanged nods, some offering tentative smiles, others shooting wary glances. Emily's presence added an unpredictable element to the field, a wild card that none could yet fully comprehend. The crowd watched as the first shooter took aim and fired, the sharp crack of a rifle splitting the air. Scores were called out, targets inspected, and the competition gained momentum. Emily waited patiently for her turn, her focus unwavering despite the noise around her. When her moment arrived, she smoothly lowered herself into position. The wooden stock settled firmly against her shoulder, grounding her. She exhaled slowly, steadying her aim, and squeezed the trigger with a controlled grace that spoke of countless hours spent mastering her craft. The rifle spoke back with a crisp report, the bullet carving a path through the air toward the distant target. As the spotter called out the result, bullseye, the crowd's initial disbelief was palpable. The jeers and laughter that had greeted her arrival gave way to stunned silence. Emily's shot was flawless, a perfect mark that silenced the doubters, if only for a moment. Still, she said nothing, rising smoothly and preparing for the next round. The whispers resumed, this time tinged with grudging respect. Questions began to circulate. Who was Emily Carter? What was the story behind that rifle? And how had she achieved such precision with a weapon so out of place in this high-tech arena? In that moment, amid the rugged Montana landscape and the gathering of elite shooters, Emily Carter stood apart, not just as a competitor, but as a symbol of persistence, tradition, and the quiet power of skill honed beyond the glare of modernity. Her journey was just beginning, and already, the old wooden stock rifle had begun to rewrite expectations. Captain Mark Reynolds stood before the assembled shooters, his voice cutting through the morning air with clear authority. The rugged Montana hills echoed his announcement, carrying it across the Blackstone shooting grounds where anticipation hung thick like the mist that lingered from dawn. Welcome to the annual Precision Shooting Championship, he began, eyes scanning the faces before him. Today you will face a series of challenges designed to test every aspect of your marksmanship, from steady aim and breath control to environmental reading and mental endurance. Shots will begin at 600 meters, increasing incrementally with each round. The crowd of 50 competitors shifted, some exchanging glances filled with quiet confidence, others tightening their grips on their rifles. The distance was no small feat, but it was only the beginning. Mark's tone was measured, but beneath it lay a note of respect for the shooters, acknowledging the grueling test ahead. Your scores will be tallied cumulatively. Precision and consistency are key. Remember, this is not only a contest of equipment but of skill, judgment, and resilience. Emily Carter stood near the back of the line, her wooden stock rifle resting comfortably against her shoulder. The modesty of her setup contrasted sharply with the gleaming composite rifles and digital scopes around her. Her calm demeanor betrayed no hint of nerves or doubt. She had faced long distances before, but today's challenge was a public stage, a proving ground where every shot was scrutinized. Reynolds continued, "We'll fire in ascending order of experience. That means some of you will begin early, others later. Emily, you'll be among the last to shoot in the initial round." A few whispered about the significance of that placement, but Emily took it as a chance to observe, to learn the wind, the light, the subtle shifts that could make or break a shot. The early shooters took their positions, settling into the prone stance with practiced ease. The first crack of a rifle fired through the air, sharp and decisive. Targets at 600 meters shimmered in the distance, paper bullseyes awaiting the bullets that would determine the day's fates. One after another, shots rang out, some finding the mark with ease, others straying just enough to draw murmurs of disappointment or frustration. Emily watched quietly, her eyes tracing each shooter's form, noting how the wind tugged at clothing and the way their breathing seemed to affect their aim. The high-tech scopes adjusted with digital precision, but the environment remained unpredictable, a constant adversary. Even the most advanced equipment couldn't guarantee success against shifting gusts and the subtle sway of the rifle. Finally, it was her turn. Moving to her station, Emily laid down with the familiar grace of years of practice. The wooden stock felt steady against her cheek, the iron sights aligned with the bullseye framed by the distant markers. Her breath slowed, each inhale and exhale measured, syncing with the rhythm she had honed over countless hours. She exhaled gently, fingers tightening on the trigger. The rifle discharged with a clean report, the bullet speeding toward the target. Silence fell, broken only by the faint wind and the distant calls of spotters. Then the call came, a perfect bullseye. The crowd near the firing line exchanged stunned looks as Emily's shot landed dead center, flawless against the 600-meter challenge. A ripple of surprised applause rose from the sidelines, some reluctant, others genuine. Emily didn't react outwardly, simply rising and preparing for the next stage. Her consistency was already setting her apart, and the murmurs among the competitors shifted from doubt to cautious admiration. Among the veterans, Tom Delgado, a sharpshooter with years of experience in military special operations, watched Emily closely. His eyes narrowed as he studied her form, the way she handled the rifle, and the steadiness that seemed almost unshakable. Tom's reputation was built on precision and adaptability, and he recognized in Emily a kindred spirit, someone whose skill transcended the age of her equipment. As the competition moved forward, the targets extended to 900 meters. Emily maintained her composure, adjusting her stance slightly to compensate for the increased distance and the subtle shifts in wind. Her shot again found the bullseye, her fingers steady and her breathing controlled. The crowd's skepticism continued to erode, replaced by a growing respect for the quiet marksman with the wooden stock rifle. Tom's interest deepened. He approached the firing line during a break, watching Emily from a distance, trying to decipher the secret behind her precision. Her technique was unconventional, yet effective. There was a fluidity in her movement, a subtle adjustment of her wrists that minimized recoil and maintained alignment. It was a style he had never seen before, something honed through experience rather than training manuals. Despite the growing attention, Emily remained reserved, refusing to discuss her background or the origins of her rifle. When pressed by curious competitors, she offered only a polite smile and a quiet shake of her head. The mystery surrounding her only added to her intrigue, fueling speculation and whispered conversations. As the day progressed, the competition intensified. The targets moved farther, stretching the limits of skill and concentration. At each distance, Emily's shots were precise, her form unyielding even as fatigue crept in. The wind became a more formidable opponent, swirling unpredictably, challenging even the most advanced equipment in seasoned shooters. Still, Emily adapted seamlessly, relying on her intimate knowledge of her rifle and an almost instinctual feel for the environment. Her wooden stock rifle, once the source of ridicule, now became a symbol of resilience and mastery. The crowd's energy shifted palpably, the earlier mockery replaced by an appreciation for the artistry unfolding before them. Captain Reynolds monitored the competition closely, impressed by the dynamic unfolding on the range. Emily's performance was a testament to the enduring power of skill and tradition, in a sport increasingly dominated by technology. His voice carried over the loudspeaker as he reminded the shooters of the importance of focus and endurance as the challenge escalated. The day's early rounds concluded with Emily among the top scorers, her consistent accuracy defying expectations. As she packed up for a brief rest, conversations buzzed around her name, speculation growing about who she was and what drove her to compete with such an unlikely weapon. Tom Delgado approached her then, offering a nod of respect and a quiet, impressive shooting. It was the first direct acknowledgement from one of the competition's elite, a subtle invitation into a fraternity of marksmen who valued skill above all else. Emily met his gaze steadily but said nothing, her expression calm yet unreadable. The competition was far from over, and she knew the true test lay ahead. For now, though, she had made her mark, quietly, precisely, and without fanfare, leaving the crowd and her competitors alike to reconsider the meaning of mastery on the firing line. As the competition progressed, the atmosphere at Blackstone Shooting Grounds grew charged with a quiet intensity. The sun climbed higher, its glare bouncing off polished barrels and high-tech scopes, but Emily Carter's focus remained unwavering. At 900 meters, where many shooters began to falter under the strain of distance and shifting conditions, Her steady hand and flawless shot pattern began to alter the narrative circulating among the competitors. Emily settled into position with the practiced ease of someone who had spent countless hours in similar stances. Her wooden stock rifle, weathered and worn, felt like an extension of her own body. The iron sights, unassisted by digital reticles or ballistic calculators, demanded absolute precision in her adjustments. She exhaled slowly, muscles taut yet relaxed, and squeezed the trigger. Her bullet found the bullseye once again. The crowd's reaction was subtle but unmistakable. A wave of murmurs rippling through the onlookers. Whispers shifted from skepticism to astonishment. "How does she do it?" one competitor muttered. "That old rifle. And yet her shots are perfect." Tom Delgado, the veteran sharpshooter who had been watching Emily since the start, narrowed his eyes as he observed her technique more closely. He noted the fluidity of her movements, the way her shoulders barely shifted despite the rifle's recoil. There was something in her stance that defied convention, a subtle harmony between shooter and weapon that Tom hadn't encountered before. During a break between rounds, Tom approached the vicinity of Emily's firing station. His curiosity piqued beyond mere admiration. He watched her quietly as she cleaned her rifle, the motions meticulous and methodical. When she glanced up, their eyes met briefly, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. Tom's voice was low but earnest. "You've got a unique technique. Mind if I ask where you learned it?" Emily paused, the faintest crease of a smile touching her lips, but she shook her head softly. "It's not something I talk about," she replied quietly, her tone firm but polite. Tom nodded, recognizing the boundary without pressing further. "Fair enough. But you've got people wondering how someone can be this consistent without modern gear." She packed her cleaning tools away with care, the worn leather case closing with a deliberate snap. "Sometimes it's about understanding the rifle, the environment, and yourself more than the technology you carry," Emily said, her gaze steady. The competition resumed, moving toward longer distances. Emily's silence about her background only deepened the intrigue. Whispers swirled among the shooters and spectators alike. Some speculated that her technique was the product of years spent in remote, challenging environments where reliance on technology was a luxury she couldn't afford. Others suggested a military past, perhaps covert operations that demanded precision without reliance on gadgets. Emily neither confirmed nor denied these theories. Instead, she focused on the task at hand, each shot a testament to discipline, patience, and an intimate bond with her rifle. Her wrist adjustment, barely perceptible but crucial, minimized recoil and maintained alignment, allowing her to remain steady even as the wind began to shift unpredictably. Tom found himself returning to watch her between rounds, fascinated by the subtle nuances of her form. He noticed how she compensated for gusts by adjusting her breathing rhythm, how her eyes flicked briefly to the target before locking back on her sights. It was a dance of precision and intuition, a mastery that neither advanced technology nor brute force could replicate. Meanwhile, the other competitors watched with a mixture of skepticism and awe. Some grumbled, accusing her of having an unfair advantage due to the rifle's recoil characteristics, attributing her success to the old wooden stock dampening the weapon's kick. Others, however, began to reconsider their own reliance on technology, questioning whether their digital aids had made them complacent. Emily's reticence about her past only fueled the mystery. When asked directly by a few persistent shooters about the origins of her rifle, she would offer a quiet smile and change the subject. The rifle itself was a rare handcrafted piece, its wood grain unique, the metalwork showing signs of expert craftsmanship. It was clear it had a story, but the details remained locked away, as much a part of Emily's identity as her unerring marksmanship. As the wind picked up, shifting in unpredictable patterns, some shooters faltered. Their shots wavered, bullets landing just off-center, the strain of adjusting to the elements taking its toll. Emily, however, seemed to thrive under the pressure. Her breathing technique, steady, measured, almost meditative, helped her maintain focus. The audience began to notice this as well, with some spectators whispering about a secret rhythm that seemed to guide her shooting. Tom, ever the observer, coined it Helios breathing during a private conversation with a fellow competitor, a term born from watching Emily's uncanny ability to harness breath control for steady shots. Though no one could confirm if Emily actually used that term, It became a quiet legend among those who followed her progress. At the end of the day's second round, Emily's scores were among the highest. Her consistency was undeniable, her skill shining through the doubts and skepticism that had greeted her arrival. The crowd's perception had shifted. Where once there was derision, now there was respect and curiosity. Despite the growing attention, Emily remained focused and reserved. She said little, her demeanor calm and composed, as if the competition were simply a continuation of a long journey rather than a public spectacle. To many, she was becoming an enigma, a shooter whose mastery defied explanation, and whose old wooden stock rifle had become a symbol of resilience in the face of modernity's relentless march. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, casting long shadows over Blackstone shooting grounds, Emily prepared for the next challenge. The distance would increase, and the conditions would grow harsher. Yet, with each shot fired and each bullseye scored, she quietly rewrote the expectations of what it meant to be a marksman in this evolving sport. As the competition advanced, the tension in the air deepened, matching the increasing distances the shooters faced. When the targets shifted to 1,500 meters, the challenge intensified beyond the mere mechanics of pulling a trigger. The stakes were higher, and under the bright Montana sun, the unforgiving wind danced unpredictably across the range. It was here that Emily Carter's unyielding accuracy began to turn heads definitively, transforming whispers of curiosity into nods of genuine respect. Tom Delgado, who had been observing Emily closely since the early rounds, found himself increasingly fascinated by her unconventional approach. From his vantage point, he noted how she adapted her stance, subtly shifting her weight to counterbalance each gust that swept across the firing line. But it was not just her physical adjustments that intrigued him. It was a subtle, almost imperceptible wrist motion during her follow-through that seemed key to her success. This small adjustment minimized recoil, maintained alignment, and preserved her sight picture in a way he had never seen before. During a brief pause in the competition, Tom approached Emily, the curiosity in his eyes now mingled with professional admiration. "I've been watching your technique," he said quietly. "That wrist adjustment, it's unusual. Mind if I ask where you picked it up?" Emily looked up, her eyes steady and calm. She offered a slight, knowing smile but said nothing. The silence was not dismissive but deliberate, a boundary she chose to maintain. Tom respected her reticence, sensing that whatever her past, it was not something she shared lightly. Meanwhile, judges and officials were taking note as well. Colonel Lisa Monroe, a respected figure in the precision shooting community and one of the competition's senior judges, had been quietly observing Emily's equipment and performance. When a brief lull allowed her to inspect Emily's rifle more closely, Monroe's trained eyes caught subtle details that set the weapon apart from standard issue. "The stock," Monroe murmured to a colleague, "is handcrafted. Look at the grain and the finish. It's not factory-made. This is the work of a master gunsmith, renowned for blending form and function in ways that enhance stability and recoil absorption." The rifle's design was more than aesthetic. It was a carefully engineered piece, shaped to fit the shooter's grip and shooting style like a glove. This bespoke craftsmanship likely contributed to Emily's remarkable control and precision, especially at extended ranges. Back on the firing line, Emily prepared for her next shot at 1,500 meters. The wind had picked up, swirling in unpredictable eddies that challenged even the most sophisticated ballistic calculators. But Emily's approach was rooted not in reliance on gadgets, but in experience and intuition. She adjusted her breathing, synchronized with her heartbeat, and aligned the iron sights with unwavering focus. Her fingers squeezed the trigger smoothly, and the rifle's report echoed through the valley. The bullet struck the target dead center, slicing through the paper with an accuracy that seemed almost impossible at such a distance. The crowd, now fully attentive, broke into quiet applause. Even those who had doubted her began to acknowledge that Emily was no ordinary competitor. Among them, Tom nodded appreciatively, impressed by her resilience and skill. "She's rewriting the rules," he murmured to a fellow shooter. Despite the growing recognition, Emily remained composed, her demeanor reserved. She packed her rifle carefully, her movements deliberate and unhurried. The leather case closed with a soft snap, a protective cocoon for the weapon that had become both her tool and her silent companion. As the competition pressed on, The contrast between Emily's traditional equipment and the high-tech gear of her competitors became less pronounced. Her performance was a testament to the enduring value of craftsmanship, discipline, and a deep understanding of one's tools. The handcrafted rifle, once a source of ridicule, had become a symbol of mastery and resilience. Tom found himself reflecting on the nature of skill and technology in the sport. Emily's success challenged the prevailing assumption that the latest advancements were always superior. Her shots were a reminder that mastery often lay in the subtle interplay between shooter and rifle, honed through years of dedication and practice. Colonel Monroe continued her observations, noting how Emily's technique capitalized on the rifle's unique design. The stock shape and weight distribution complemented the shooter's posture and grip, enhancing stability and reducing fatigue during prolonged shooting sessions. Such bespoke craftsmanship was rare, and Monroe speculated that the rifle itself might have a storied history. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the range as participants prepared for the next phase. Emily's consistent performance at 1,500 meters had shifted the competition's dynamic. Where once she had been an outsider, now she was a formidable contender, her presence commanding respect. Between rounds, Emily remained guarded about her past. When approached by other competitors seeking to learn more about her rifle or background, she offered only polite smiles and deflected questions with grace. The mystery surrounding her added an intangible edge to her growing legend. As the day wore on, the challenges ahead would only grow tougher. But Emily Carter's unyielding accuracy and the rare handcrafted rifle she wielded had already made an indelible impression on the Blackstone shooting grounds. The blend of tradition, skill, and quiet determination was a powerful force, one that promised to reshape perceptions and raise the bar for all who competed. Tom watched her from a distance, silently acknowledging that the competition was no longer just a test of equipment or technology. It was a celebration of mastery in its purest form. And Emily Carter, with her handcrafted rifle and unwavering focus, was at the heart of it all. The air at Blackstone shooting grounds had thickened with tension as the competition reached the daunting 2,300-meter mark. The sun was dipping lower behind the rugged Montana hills, casting long shadows and bathing the range in a golden fading light. Winds swirled unpredictably, teasing shooters with sudden gusts and lulls, challenging even the most advanced ballistic computations. It was here, under these exacting conditions, that Emily Carter's skill would be tested like never before. Emily settled into position with a quiet determination that belied the complexity of the shot ahead. Her wooden stock rifle, worn but meticulously maintained, rested firmly against her shoulder. Unlike many of her competitors, who relied heavily on digital readouts and electronic wind meters, Emily's approach was visceral and intuitive. She closed her eyes briefly, inhaling the crisp mountain air, feeling the subtle shifts in the breeze against her skin. The years spent training in remote and unforgiving mountain ranges had honed her senses beyond the reach of technology. Her gaze fixed on the distant target, the bullseye a mere speck against the rugged backdrop. She adjusted her iron sights carefully, a process that demanded absolute precision, especially given the rifle's lack of modern enhancements. The wind had shifted again, swirling in unpredictable patterns that would throw off even the most advanced shooters. But Emily's steady hand and focused mind refused to waver. The rifle's report cracked sharply, echoing through the valley, and the bullet sped toward the target. The assembled crowd held its breath, eyes following the tracer invisible to the naked eye. Moments later came the unmistakable sound of the bullet striking paper, dead center. A collective murmur rippled through the spectators. Emily had achieved a shot that seemed almost impossible under such conditions. Some competitors grumbled in disbelief, accusing her of relying on the rifle's recoil characteristics, her old wooden stock believed to provide superior control and stability compared to modern composite materials. Yet others nodded quietly, recognizing that her accomplishment was the product of more than just equipment. Flashbacks flickered through Emily's mind, the years spent in isolation, training on mountain ridges where the only company was the wind and the echo of her shots. Those remote ranges had been her crucible, teaching her to read the environment, to anticipate shifts in wind and light, and to trust her instincts when technology was unavailable or unreliable. Meanwhile, Tom Delgado watched from a distance, his respect for Emily growing with every shot. He noted how her breathing remained steady, how she seemed to merge with her rifle and the environment in a way that transcended technique. Tom had seen many shooters falter at this distance, but Emily's composure never wavered. The crowd's energy shifted perceptibly. Where once there had been skepticism and doubt, there was now a quiet admiration. Emily's performance was challenging the prevailing assumptions about what was possible without cutting-edge gear. Her wooden stock rifle, once dismissed as a relic, had become a symbol of enduring skill and resilience. As the competition progressed, Emily continued to demonstrate remarkable consistency, despite the swirling winds and fading light. Each shot was a testament to her discipline, experience, and the intimate bond she shared with her rifle. Her technique, marked by subtle wrist adjustments and a breathing pattern that seemed to synchronize with the rhythm of the environment, captivated those who watched closely. Tom approached her during a brief pause, curiosity and respect mingling in his expression. "Your technique," he began. "It's unlike anything I've seen. That breathing method. Does it have a name?" Emily met his gaze steadily. "Some call it Helios breathing," she replied quietly. "It's about controlling the mind and body to become one with the shot." Tom nodded thoughtfully, absorbing the significance of her words. It was a technique born from experience and necessity, a way to overcome the unpredictability of nature and equipment alike. The competition continued into the evening, the temperature dropping as darkness crept over the range. Emily's shots remained precise, defying fatigue and the encroaching cold. Her wooden stock rifle, a testament to craftsmanship and history, had become an extension of herself, a tool wielded with unwavering confidence. As the final rounds approached, whispers circulated about Emily's past, the mystery behind her rifle and the depth of her training. Some speculated about a covert military background. Others suggested a lineage of legendary marksmen. Emily neither confirmed nor denied these stories, choosing instead to let her performance speak for itself. The day's trials at 2,300 meters had reshaped the competition. Emily Carter was no longer an outsider, but a formidable contender whose skill and resolve commanded respect. Her journey, marked by quiet perseverance and mastery of the fundamentals, had begun to rewrite the rules of what was possible on the firing line. Tom watched her one last time before the round ended, knowing that the competition, and the story of the woman with the wooden stock rifle, was far from over. A sudden chill swept over the Blackstone shooting grounds as dark clouds gathered on the horizon, signaling an approaching storm that would test every competitor's resolve. The final challenge had arrived. A shot at 3,700 meters, a distance that pushed the limits of both man and machine. The wind howled unpredictably, gusts lashing against the shooters and the equipment they had painstakingly prepared. The air was thick with tension, the atmosphere electric as the crowd held its breath. Emily Carter stood poised on the firing line, her weathered wooden stock rifle steady in her hands despite the biting cold. The rifle, so often dismissed as an antiquated relic, had become a symbol of her unyielding skill and dedication. Her gaze was fixed on the distant target, barely visible through the storm's gathering veil. The challenge was immense. Few had ever attempted such a shot, and none had succeeded under these conditions. Captain Mark Reynolds, overseeing the competition, nodded solemnly as Emily settled into position. "This is it," he murmured to himself. "The real test." Emily's breathing slowed, each inhale and exhale measured and deliberate. She employed the technique whispered about among the shooters, Helios breathing, a method that synchronized her mind and body, allowing her to become one with her rifle and the environment. The storm's fury seemed to fade into the background, reduced to a distant roar as she focused solely on the target. With practiced precision, Emily adjusted her sights, factoring in the swirling winds and the diminished light. Her fingers tightened on the trigger, and the rifle roared. The bullet sped through the turbulent air, its path a testament to physics and human mastery. Silence followed, thick and expectant. Then came the unmistakable sound of the bullet striking the target dead center. A stunned hush fell over the crowd, broken only by a few scattered gasps and the distant rumble of thunder. Emily had shattered the previous distance record. Her shot a feat that seemed almost superhuman. The atmosphere shifted from disbelief to reverence, as the reality of her accomplishment settled in. General Harper, a stern figure known for his no-nonsense approach to military affairs, stepped forward to address the crowd. His voice was calm but carried the weight of authority. Emily Carter's performance today is nothing short of extraordinary. What many did not know is that she was once a top sniper in covert operations, where precision and composure under pressure were matters of life and death. He paused, allowing the words to resonate. The rifle she wields is not merely a tool but a family heirloom, passed down through generations of legendary marksmen. Its craftsmanship and history have been integral to her success. The revelation rippled through the spectators and competitors alike. Emily's quiet demeanor now seemed filled with deeper significance, a reflection of a life shaped by discipline, sacrifice, and a legacy of excellence. As General Harper concluded, Emily lowered her rifle and allowed herself a brief, rare smile. The weight of the moment was not lost on her. This was more than a competition victory. It was a culmination of years spent honing her craft, honoring a lineage, and embracing the quiet power of perseverance. Tom Delgado approached her then, his respect evident as he extended a hand. "I had no idea," he said softly. "Your skills, your story, it's incredible." Emily shook his hand firmly. "It's taken years to get here," she replied. "And the journey isn't over." The storm began to break, the first drops of rain pattering gently as the crowd dispersed, buzzing with renewed admiration. Emily's shot at 3,700 meters was already being talked about as a defining moment in the sport's history, a testament to the enduring power of skill, tradition, and unwavering focus. As the evening settled over Blackstone, Emily stood alone for a moment, the rifle resting against her shoulder. The legacy she carried was heavy but honored, and the path ahead was clear. Her story was no longer a mystery but a beacon, one that would inspire those who understood that true mastery transcended technology and stood firmly rooted in the soul of the shooter. The message came through just as the last echoes of applause for the record-breaking shot at 3,700 meters were fading. A terse, urgent dispatch crackled over the radio frequencies monitored by the event staff. A hostile incursion had erupted in a remote border zone, and advanced precision fire support was immediately required. The gravity of the situation was palpable, the atmosphere shifting from celebratory to critical in an instant. Emily Carter listened intently, her expression sharpening as the details unfolded. The outpost under threat was isolated, surrounded by treacherous terrain that complicated any conventional response. The need for expert long-range cover was dire, and her skills, refined through years of covert operations and the recent demonstration of unparalleled marksmanship, made her the natural choice for deployment. Captain Tom Delgado, who had become both an observer and an unexpected ally during the competition, approached her with a determined look. "We're being sent in," he said. "You and I together. This mission needs precision and calm. No room for error." Emily nodded without hesitation, the moment calling forth the quiet resolve that had carried her through countless challenges. They moved swiftly, gathering their gear, her wooden stock rifle meticulously packed alongside his advanced tactical system, and boarded the waiting helicopter. The roar of the rotors was a stark contrast to the stillness of the shooting range, a reminder that the stakes had shifted from sport to survival. The flight was tense but brief, navigating through rugged mountain passes and dense forests. As the helicopter descended near the embattled outpost, the first signs of conflict came into view: distant flashes of muzzle fire, the faint plumes of smoke rising against the evening sky. The terrain was unforgiving, with steep cliffs and narrow ridges offering both cover and peril. Emily and Tom disembarked with practiced efficiency, moving quickly to establish a firing position that commanded a clear line of sight over the engagement zone. The wind was fickle here, swirling unpredictably through the canyons and complicating ballistic calculations. But Emily's experience in remote mountain ranges, where technology was often unreliable, gave her an edge. She deployed a small, rugged digital device, a departure from her usual reliance on instinct, to cross-check environmental data, then adjusted her sights with the precision that had become her hallmark. Her breathing slowed, syncing with the rhythm she had refined over years of training. The first target appeared: enemy combatants maneuvering through rocky outcrops, threatening the outpost's perimeter. Emily's finger tightened on the trigger, and the rifle fired a clean, controlled shot. The bullet found its mark, neutralizing the threat with surgical accuracy. Tom covered her flank, coordinating with the outpost's defenders and providing tactical communication. Together, they formed a seamless team, Emily's calm precision complementing Tom's strategic oversight. As the engagement intensified, Emily's shots continued to disable key enemy positions, buying critical time for reinforcements to arrive. Her connection with the wooden stock rifle was evident. Each shot was executed with a blend of instinct and calculation that technology alone could not replicate. The hostile forces, realizing they were being methodically dismantled, began to retreat under the relentless accuracy of Emily's fire. The outpost defenders rallied, inspired by the precision support that turned the tide of the skirmish. When the extraction helicopter arrived, Emily and Tom moved swiftly to the pickup point. Their mission accomplished, but the cost of conflict clear in the weary eyes of those they had aided. As they boarded, Emily cast a brief glance over the rugged landscape below, a silent acknowledgement of the lives saved and the sacrifices made. Back at base, General Harper awaited their return, his expression one of measured approval. "Excellent work," he said, nodding to both. "Your performance out there was exemplary. You demonstrated not only skill but leadership under pressure." Tom looked at Emily, the unspoken bond forged through fire and precision evident between them. "I'm glad we worked together," he said quietly. Emily's reply was simple but resolute. "There's more ahead. We'll be ready." The mission had shifted the narrative, from competition to real-world stakes, showcasing the vital role that mastery of skill, regardless of technology or equipment, played in moments that mattered most. Emily Carter's calm precision and leadership had proven indispensable, cementing her reputation not just as a champion marksman, but as a guardian in the harshest of conditions. The mission's success settled over Emily Carter like a quiet but unyielding tide, its weight both grounding and propelling her forward. Back at Blackstone Shooting Grounds, the echoes of the competition had transformed into something more profound, a testament not only to skill but to perseverance, tradition, and the unyielding spirit of a marksman who defied expectation. In the aftermath, the symbolic power of Emily's wooden stock rifle became impossible to ignore. It was no longer just a tool or a relic. It was an extension of her story, a lineage of craftsmanship and dedication passed through generations. The rifle's worn wood and precise engineering spoke of countless hours spent mastering the bond between shooter and weapon, a legacy that technology alone could never replace. Tom Delgado, now more than a competitor but a trusted ally, received an invitation that surprised him. He was asked to train under Emily's guidance, an opportunity he accepted with a mix of humility and eagerness. Their partnership, born from shared challenges and mutual respect, promised to blend tradition with modern tactics, forging a new path in precision shooting. The training sessions were rigorous and demanding, but filled with moments of revelation. Emily's methods emphasized fundamentals, breath control, mental focus, and an intimate understanding of the rifle's behavior. Her Helios breathing technique became a cornerstone of their regimen, teaching Tom to harness calm amid chaos and to let instinct guide precision. As the weeks passed, Tom found himself shedding old habits, embracing a philosophy that valued patience and presence over reliance on gadgets. Emily's influence reshaped not only his technique but his entire approach to marksmanship, reminding him that true mastery lay beyond equipment. It lived in the shooter's mind and soul. Emily, for her part, remained a figure of quiet strength. She rarely spoke of her past or the sacrifices that had shaped her, but her actions spoke volumes. Each shot fired during training was a lesson in discipline and resilience, a reminder that excellence was earned through relentless dedication. Outside the training grounds, word of Emily's achievements in teaching spread through the precision shooting community. Her story inspired a renewed appreciation for craftsmanship and skill, bridging the gap between old and new. Shooters began to reconsider the balance between technology and tradition, seeking to emulate the harmony Emily embodied. One evening, as the sun dipped below the Montana horizon, Emily stood alone overlooking the firing range. The familiar weight of her wooden stock rifle rested against her shoulder, its surface smooth beneath her fingers. The quiet hum of nature surrounded her, a reminder of the mountains and valleys that had forged her path. She reflected on the journey, the competition that had tested her limits, the mission that had demanded her best, and the legacy that now carried forward. The bullet that had shattered records was more than a mark on a target. It was a symbol of perseverance, a testament to the enduring power of skill and heart. As the stars began to twinkle overhead, Emily's gaze lifted to the night sky. The quiet promise she had made, to honor the past and protect the future, remained steadfast. The path ahead was uncertain, but one truth was clear. Mastery was a journey without end, and she was ready to continue walking it. With a final breath, she settled her rifle and turned away from the range, stepping forward into the night. The story of Emily Carter and her wooden stock rifle was far from over. It was only just beginning.